When her Korean boss and his lovely employee, Hannah had spent over 3 years as an employee of a global corporation at its Seoul office. Mr. Kim, her employer, was a well-respected and motivated person who was well known for his keen mind and strong commitment to his work. He may have had a tough demeanor, but beneath it was a compassionate heart, and he always showed his staff respect. Mr. Kim showed a keen interest in Hannah's career from the moment she arrived. He was impressed by her persistence, inventiveness, and graceful approach to every obstacle. This professional appreciation developed into something more, something he hadn't anticipated. Over time, Mr. Kim invited Hannah to supper one evening following a demanding workday. They frequently talked about business over dinner, but this particular evening felt different. Mr. Kim appeared abnormally apprehensive as they sat in a traditional Korean restaurant. He was quiet for a while and hesitated before speaking up. He said, "Hannah," in a quieter tone than normal, "I've always admired your work, but there's something more I need to tell you." Hannah felt the weight of his words as she lifted her gaze from her bowl of bibimbap. "Yes, Mr. Kim," he admitted, "I have feelings for you. I understand that you may be surprised, but you have my undying affection, and not just as a co-worker, but as a person. Will you think about doing more for me than just being my employee?" Hannah felt her heart race. She was a great admirer of Mr. Kim and appreciated his mentoring, but she had never considered this situation. Taking a deep breath, she searched for the proper words. "Mr. Kim," she said, her words deliberate, "I'm incredibly touched by your emotions and your candor. I have the utmost respect for you because you have been an amazing mentor and leader. But I also have to be sincere." She hesitated, noticing the vulnerability in his gaze. "I don't feel the same way. Although I respect and value our business relationship, I view you more as a friend and mentor than as a romantic partner." Mr. Kim nodded slowly, his face displaying a mix of relief and melancholy. "Hannah, I appreciate your honesty. You have no idea how much it means to me. I hope that this has no impact on our working relationship." Hannah gave a gentle smile. "It won't happen. Our working connection is too important to me to allow this to sour. Let's keep collaborating to accomplish big things." But as the days went by, Mr. Kim's attitude shifted. The lively energy he used to bring to the office seemed to wane as he grew more reclusive. Hannah felt a twinge of shame when she saw the disparity, even though she knew that being honest was the correct thing to do. She got a message from Mr. Kim one evening as she was ready to leave the office, requesting her to come to his office. She hastily made her way there, concerned. Upon her arrival, she discovered Mr. Kim seated at his desk with a glass and a bottle of soju in front of him. He appeared more vulnerable than she had ever seen him, and his eyes were crimson. His voice faltered, and he murmured, "Hannah, I can't go on like this. I'm unable to handle the hurt of your rejection." Hannah felt her heart sink. "Please, Mr. Kim, this is not necessary for you to do. You are needed and cared for by some people. This is not the solution." Mr. Kim lunged for the bottle, tears streaming down his cheeks, whispering, "I've lost everything that mattered to me." Hannah hurried to his side and took hold of his hand, desperate to aid him. "Not everything is gone from you. You have your family, friends, and career. You are a well-liked leader who positively impacts a great number of lives." Mr. Kim gave her a look, agony visible in his eyes. "But I don't have you." Hannah's eyes began to flood up with tears. "I am here for you as a co-worker and friend. I genuinely care about you and want the best for you. Don't do this, please." They sat there silently for a long while, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging over them. Mr. Kim set down the bottle slowly and inhaled deeply. At last, he acknowledged, "You're right. I need to find a way to move forward." With a wave of relief, Hannah nodded. "With each other, we'll overcome this. You're not by yourself." Mr. Kim started to recover in the weeks that followed after he sought medical attention. She tried to reassure Hannah, but she was still plagued by guilt. It dawned on her how much Mr. Kim meant to Hannah, not just as an employer, but also as a person who loved her. After a particularly difficult day, Hannah found herself reflecting on Mr. Kim's confession one evening. It was intolerable to consider losing him and that he would suffer as a result of her. She made up her mind to speak with him once again, her heart thumping. She hurried to his office. With a look of surprise on his face, Mr. Kim looked up from his desk. Mr. Kim started to recover in the weeks that followed after he sought medical attention. She tried to reassure Hannah, but she was still plagued by guilt. It dawned on her how much Mr. Kim meant to her, not just as an employer, but also as a person who loved her. After a particularly difficult day, Hannah found herself reflecting on Mr. Kim's confession one evening. It was intolerable to consider losing him and that he would suffer as a result of her. She made up her mind to speak with him once again, her heart thumping. She hurried to his office. With a look of surprise on his face, Mr. Kim looked up from his desk. "Hannah," he exclaimed as he stood up, "what brings you here?" Hannah inhaled deeply. "I've been reflecting a lot on what you said and my response. I told you the truth, but I didn't give my feelings enough thought." Mr. Kim's eyes grew wide as hope began to flare. "What are you saying?" "I'm expressing that, while I didn't know it, I also care about you. I can't deny it anymore. Whether it was because I was afraid or because I didn't want to acknowledge it to myself. Let's try this together, please." Mr. Kim's eyes welled with tears, but they were happy and relieved ones. "Hannah, are you sure?" With a nod, she moved toward him. "Yes, without a doubt." "Together, let's take this step." Their romance took off from there. Together, with a fresh appreciation and affection for one another, they overcame obstacles in their personal and professional lives. Mr. Kim experienced a fresh feeling of happiness and purpose, while Hannah's initial reluctance developed into a strong, unflinching dedication. They continued, understanding that sometimes the strongest bonds are created by openness, vulnerability, and the bravery to accept change.